guys, and welcome back to another challenge video here on the channel where we take on games in various unconventional ways. Well, actually this challenge is probably the most conventional one can ever be, as I'm going to be playing through Super Mario 64 the way Miyamoto, Donkey Kong, and all of Nintendo intended. Now jokes aside, what does this mean, you might be wondering? Well, if you haven't seen any of the other videos like this in recent months, basically the rules are pretty simple. Gonna be cracking open this bad boy, the official, check it, official, Super Mario 64 guide, and following the instructions as given to grab the minimum 70 stars required to beat this game. So I've been speedrunning this game for a while now, but here I'll probably have to forget all the bomb clips and the cannonless tricks and take this game on as if it's my first time. And really quick, before we jump in, if at any point you do enjoy the video, consider letting me and the YouTube algorithm know with a like down below. It really helps me out a ton. And with all of that said, it's time to play through Super Mario 64 exactly as Nintended in 3, 2, 1. The intro cutscene begins, and after a quick chat with Lakitu, we're in the castle. The guide tells us to first hit up the door on the left to Bob-omb Battlefield, where we'll soon learn the door-opening powers the stars apparently have. So that's where we'll go. I should mention that since the guide doesn't specifically say to get the stars in a certain order within a stage, I'll be more or less sticking to my personal speedrun route as I wanted to see how many of the guide changes would affect my normal play. So that said, let's first hit up our pal Chain Chomp here, who is guarding the star behind the gate jealously. To reach this star, the guide instructs us to first distract the Chain Chomp by running past him, dodging inside, and then doing a pound the ground move 3 times on the post to detach the ball that bites, and with that, we have our first star. Also, if you haven't noticed yet, we're playing the PC port version of the game here, so let's switch things up to the Render 96 mod to make the visuals appear as Nintendo intended if 1990s hardware didn't limit them. Anyways, next, let's tackle the big bomb at the top of the mountain. I guess I never really gave it much thought, but I always refer to this guy as King Babomb, but the guide, and I guess the game itself, refers to him just as Big Babomb. It was a major Mandela effect moment for me. Anyways, I digress. The fastest path to the top is apparently to cross the wooden bridge, past the Chain Chomp, get over the tilting bridge here, cross the path to the stone bridge, go through the iron gates, and then trek up the ball-infested path? Ball-infested. Not the choice of words I'd go with, but okay. Thankfully, the guide here teaches us about the secret warp in the mountain by standing against the wall here. Nice. For the fight at the top, we use the distant camera position as recommended, then grab and throw the bomb 3 times for a quick and easy second star. Next up for star 3, we're gonna shoot to the island in the sky. Thankfully, this guide gives us a nice little cannon aiming tip to guarantee a shot to the island. Using the second cannon on the mountainside by aiming directly at the red coin at the top of the tree, we land perfectly on the island and can break open the box for the next star. Next up, after the guide reminds us about the peril of the Womps, time to go visit their fortress, and first let's go take out their king. The guide outlines a pretty typical path up to the top, past these piranhas, this rotating bridge, and Womps, and then take this elevator up to the top. Nothing here about the ground pound glitch to clip through King Womp, so gonna have to do this the intended way by actually having to dodge the attack and then performing a pound the ground move 3 times on his back, and just like that, another star. The next star at the top of the fortress had me taking the same path up to the top here, nothing too crazy, but I just had to try and avoid the bullet bills near the top since apparently biting a bullet isn't good for Mario. Next up is shoot into the wild blue, and normally this is one of the easiest and fastest stars in the entire game for me, but since Nintendo apparently never intended anyone to just side flip up here, we gotta go back and actually use the cannon here as intended. Now I haven't done this the intended way in a long time, but thankfully the guide here gives us a nice tip to properly line up the shot here. It says to line up directly with the flagpole and then to aim slightly above the brick platform. Apparently though, I didn't get it right the first time, but next time back, after a small adjustment, that's another star down. Next is the star up in the cage, and the guide tells us to watch for Mario's shadow in the cage and then let go of Hoot the Owl when seeing it. Easy enough. Next up is the star in the wall, and unfortunately, no mention of the cannonless glitch in this guide, so time to aim the cannon to blast away the wall, as intended. Now on to Jolly Roger Bay, and first here is the star in the sunken ship. Now I was really curious about this star, as although I know how to get it now obviously, I always wondered how people were supposed to know exactly how to lure the Unagi out of the ship here. Well, the guide here outlines it pretty clearly, as after seeing the eel, it instructs the player to return to the surface for air before diving back down to see the eel leave the ship. Despite me playing through the game almost once a week, I often second guess myself when it comes to the order of the chests here. But thankfully the guide's got my back with this nice little graphic showing the order. After getting the right order, I normally try to swim up to the top quickly to avoid having to jump up the platforms here, but the guide explicitly tells me to wait for the water to drain and to use backflips to get to the top. Or so I thought, until I actually read the rest of the paragraph. Oops. Alright, enough of the water level, now let's get to the snow. Although the guide does make mention of the not-so-secret corridor on the slide, I decided to just slide down the old-fashioned way for the first star here. Next, for bringing back the penguin to her mama, the guide just tells us to get down to the bottom of the mountain, but doesn't exactly outline any path to do so I did actually use the speedrun strat on the side of the mountain here to grab the star quickly. On the flip side, however, for the next star, while kicks will work, I can't just jump down like I normally do, as the guide outlines taking the intended way with a cannon. It does mention also using a glide down from a spindrift enemy at the top to float down there, but I never seem to have luck with those, so let's go talk to the pink Babomb first, and off to the cannon we go. Once again, the guide outlines a way to aim the cannon to successfully land the shot every time. The guide tells us to line up with the tree and then to aim at the middle of the cliff section above the tree, and honestly, the middle of the cliff section just wasn't very explicit here. I thought it meant the middle of this whole chunk here, but nope, that just resulted in Mario meeting his untimely death for like the 7th time this run. So I guess by middle of the cliff section, they probably meant this dark part only, because once I aimed at the middle of that, easy shot. It turns out, for whatever reason, this guide actually has 2 separate sections on how to aim, with the second being much better. There it actually says to aim at the dark gray slanted cliff part above the tree. Not sure why this is here twice, but okay. Then after long jumping past the coins, doing some backward somersaults, which I guess is what they call the backflip, and then a sideways wall jump here, that's another star down. Now with 12 stars in hand, although I usually go and take on Big Boo's haunt before going to the first Bowser stage, the guide has the Bowser stage first, so up and in we go. Now the guide doesn't really outline any specific path to take to get to Bowser, basically just outlines tips on how to get all 8 red coins. But since I didn't really feel like doing those today, just gonna move on up, and now time for the first fight with Bowser, who looks incredible in Render 96, may I add. There's really no other way to fight Bowser here, so just as the guide outlines, time to grab his tail, aim at a bomb, fire away, and just like that, we got the key to the basement. Before that though, next the guide finally shows us some secrets of the castle. So now we can get the first star on Peach's secret slide, as well as the bonus one for completing it in under 21 seconds, or I think that's a 1 anyway. I didn't think the guide would mention a shortcut here, but it actually does give instructions on how to do a Weenie Hut Jr. version of the regular slide skip here. It doesn't save as much time, but still not bad. Then the Tower of the Wing Cap is next, and by following the spiral trail of red coins, we got another star down and the Wing Cap unlocked. And with this Wing Cap, we can now go back to Bob-omb Battlefield to revisit Star 5, which the guide says requires the Wing Cap. The guide here is once again nice enough to share a nifty little tip to be able to shoot Mario through all 5 center coins for this star in one shot. Apparently, by simply aiming at the center of the first coin and not steering at all, you can do this in one blast. Now, I've never actually done it this way before, and it looks like there isn't much room for error when aiming at the center, but 2 more blasts and bada boom, bada beam, another star down. Now, although we do have the key to the basement, and the next segment is literally titled the Castle Basement, next up is Big Boo's haunt, I guess. Time to go for a ghost hunt, and although I usually tackle these ghosts in a clockwise order around the mansion, here the guide outlines an intended order. First is the one in the room with Mr. I, the second in the room with the narrow ledge, and then the final 2 in the room with the Boo painting. Wait, that's only 4. Yeah, I didn't make a mistake. I guess this guide straight up just forgot to include this last guy here. I guess the editor, accidentally might have deleted a sentence here or something, but, alright. Then, after 3 pound the ground moves against the self-proclaimed Tower of Terror, wait. We get yet another star. It's been quite a while since I haven't just jumped across this gap here for the star, so I actually have to go hit the 3 books in order here to avoid an onslaught of furious fiction and open up the secret path for the star. We also get some bonus deep words of wisdom to close out this star. Indeed, if the pen is mightier than the sword, then the book is mightier still. Also, another thing I didn't know is that these books aren't actually books at all, but rather ghost enemies that actually have a name too, bookends. Next up, the merry-go-round wasn't anything special, so with that, let's finally head on down to the basement, and since there's no mention of grabbing Mips yet here, looks like it's off to Maisie Hayes' cave. Real quick break here, if you would like to watch the full playthrough of this run, I'll have the Tetrabit replay VOD linked in the description below. Check it out, and consider subscribing there for more full streams and such. Anyways, after getting down to Dory in the stage here, the guide didn't offer advice to have to ground pound Dory here, so I thought I had to do it in a much more difficult way. But turns out yet again, the guide for whatever reason thought it was a good idea to have more info and tips for this on the bottom of the next page. So I guess I did it the hard way for nothing. When here, next I normally quickly get this star, but this time I have to do it the hard and long way. Thankfully, at least the guide gives us a nice clear-ish map of the gassy maze, and after a long path of hanging on here, that's star 21 down. Then after watching out for rolling rocks and wall kicking up as normal, next up onto lethal Lavaland. Thankfully, the guide here recommends using the wing cap near the start to get around, so that makes getting around a lot easier. So first up is the big bully, and once again the hint to beat him is for some reason on the next page, so I didn't follow it again. Whoops. But the apparent intended way to defeat him is to jump straight up as he is about to hit Mario to land on his head. These instructions sound pretty basic, and I don't think just jumping in place is nearly as effective as jump kicking. Now time to prove Mario has lumberjack blood in his veins as we make our way across this log and jump for the platform at the other side to get star number 26. Now for the volcano stars. For the first one here, not any new detailed instructions in the guide, so just gotta follow the outside path to the top, and similarly for the second one, just a regular old elevator ride up to star 28. Now on to Shifting Sandland we go, and time to grab back the star from Klepto. And nope, no shortcuts were intended here apparently, as we have to actually navigate the Toxbox maze. Honestly, can't remember the last time I was back here. Gotta climb this palm tree to get a 1-up as instructed, and then this tower to bop Klepto for another star. For star 2, the guide offers several options to climb up the pyramid, like using the wing cap, but honestly I think using the Koopa shell is the fastest and easiest method. Then for some stars in the pyramid, for one at the top, I can no longer just jump off the elevator, but the path to the star at the top is pretty straightforward, not much deviation there. And after another trek up and then down to get the secret coins, that's another 2 stars down. Now that's about enough desert levels for one challenge, so now on to Dire Docks. Thankfully again, the guide gives us a nice image with the chest order in case I forgot. Now I don't know about you guys, but I didn't learn what an eddy was until my 5th year university fluid dynamics class, so it's kind of odd that you'd use this word instead of something probably more younger kids would understand, like whirlpool. Or for the next star, we gotta cross this gangplank, and I guess this is a conning tower? Learn something new every day, I suppose, but this guy just has a lot of really weird lexicon. After swimming through some rings for another star, time to hit up Bowser in the Fire Sea. Just like with the first Bowser stage, there's really only one way up to the top here, so just gotta make the trek up to the pipe bowl thing, and the fight with Bowser is again basically the same, and one kaboom later, we got ourselves the second key. And just like after the first Bowser fight, now the guide outlines some extra secret stars we can grab. We can grab this freebie from Peach's Loyal Mushroom Retainer, and another star from grabbing this Wascally Wabbit. Finally now, up to the second floor, and next stage up is not the painting right in front of us at the top of the staircase, but rather Snowmans Land. But look at this dude, look at the top of his head, let's try getting that star. And without any of my usual shortcuts here, we gotta go around to this block conveyor. Not sure if that's what I would call it, and then up to the ice bridge here with the big penguin. Now, I've legitimately never done this, or have even ever seen or heard of anyone doing this, but apparently the way to cross this bridge without getting blown off by the snowman is to actually jump on the penguin's head and ride him over. Now, I always thought you had to walk alongside the penguin to use him as a shield from the wind, but honestly, this is so much easier. The guide does mention using the stage's cannon to just blast up to the star, but that would require going to the igloo and stuff, and I'm glad I just did it this other way. This time for the fight with the chill bully, I followed the instructions unlike with the other bully fights, so I faced outwards on the platform, jumped straight up, and yeah, fun times. The way inside this ice sculpture thing is pretty straightforward with a back somersault and some handy dandy screenshots. And then after using helicopter jumps off of one of the spin drifts to this area here, that's another easy star in one of these boxes, and also access to the green shell to grab all 8 red coins pretty easily. Now we get to jump into the painting that I'm sure most players immediately jump to when getting to the second floor. For star 1, again, I honestly can't remember the last time I did this the intended way, as I usually just use the teleporter spot to get it quickly. The guide does mention this warp, but hey, we're trying to do things as intended, so let's actually ride these arrow lifts across to get the star. They say it's a long way to the top, but this isn't quite rock and roll, apparently, as I have to take a path that I don't think I ever have. After walking up this ramp, the guide instructs me to move this block to do a backward somersault up to the top here. Then after chucking Chuckya, crossing the plank, that's another star down. The secret locations were a breeze thanks to some handy hint screenshots. Then doing the express elevator star had me actually using the heave hose to my advantage, which was kinda weird, to get up to the top and then ground pounding back down before hitting the ground, and after a quick ride up, that's star 46 in the books. I'm not looking forward to this course. Honestly, I used to really dislike this course. That is until I learned how to do the glitch to clip up half the mountain, which makes it a lot more tolerable, but yeah, none of that here. So I had to follow the path outlined by the guide here, including several backflips to painstakingly get up to the top. At least for the red coins, you only have to climb like half the mountain, but without the slide skip jump being mentioned here, gotta make the trek up top once again to go down the slide for that star. Then after opening up the cannon, time to use it to blast to the lonely mushroom. Just as when using the other cannons, the guide here tells us again where to aim. Here we have to line up the crosshair on the star and then go up until just the top of the mushroom is visible on the bottom. Thankfully for once, this actually worked on the first try for me. Another learning experience for me for the star behind the waterfall is that you're actually supposed to use the purple switch here to spawn in a block in front of the waterfall to help with this jump. I honestly had no idea this block ever appeared here, but I gotta admit, it does make the jump a lot less stressful. Now in Tiny Huge Island, the fight with the piranhas was pretty normal, but for Star 2, we have to take the long way up through here, and here, and here. The guide does have nice images indicating where to find the itty-bitty secrets of the island, so that was pretty straightforward, and then I was instructed to use the purple switch blocks to get across instead of doing the scary leap of faith like I'm used to, so that was also pretty nice. Then, after draining the water and bamboozling the grouchy, greedy grub, we got 55 stars in the pocket. Onto the third floor we go, and thankfully the guide mentions how to control the platform movement timing in Tick-Tock Clock. The path up to the top here is pretty linear, so there's not much the guide outlines that isn't already obvious. As such, most of the stars here were pretty easy, but I got to ride the clock hands as intended to get the stars here, as well as at the top, which is something I haven't done in a very long time, as I've learned speedrun strats to bypass them. Thankfully, the guide tells us to stop the time here for the red coins, otherwise this would be much more of a pain than it already is. And last but certainly least is Rainbow Ride, and just like the previous course, getting around here is pretty intuitive, even with the guide's hints. So first I got all 8 red coins, which are very fancily shown in this super crisp screenshot. Then thankfully the guide also tells us about the long jump shortcut to the pole behind the spawning area. This saves some time as we negotiate some falling blocks here as intended to get this star, as well as to get to the tricky triangles for star number 64. I didn't want to do the cruiser crossing star, but I was kind of hurting for stars at this point, so yeah, time to ride the magic carpets up. Once again, no crazy instructions here, so that's yet another star down. Lastly here, let's do another cannon star as we got some more aiming tips. Here the guide doesn't really give us text-based instructions for aiming, but rather basically tells us to line up the crosshairs as shown in the screenshot. Thankfully, that worked pretty well. Needing 4 more stars, first we can learn new words like retinue and grab 2 freebie stars from this mushroom retainer here and here. Then at this point, I let my stream chat decide star 69 for me, and since they, I guess, love me so much, they made me get 100 coins in Hazy Maze Cave. And yeah, that was really fun. I really hope I don't die at this point. Like, we have so many coins. Oh, I freaking swear to God. But on the bright side, this also let me get the red coin star for a 2-for-1 deal to get the 70 stars we need to beat the game. Now finally up the not-so-endless stairs to jump on into Bowser in the Sky. Once again, just like the Bowser stages from before, the guide only gives hints for the red coins as the path up is linear as a line. Now time for the final battle with the Master of Mayhem, aka the Turtle of Terror, aka the boss of Bwahaha. No new tricks outlined here, and 3 quick throws later, and I definitely didn't miss. Bowser is down for the count as Nintendo intended. Honestly, kind of seemed like an anticlimactic section in the guide here for the final boss of the game to be reduced to just a small blurb. But yeah, that's basically it. The guide also mentions some bonuses for getting all 120 stars, as well as some sweet prizes you can get for signing up for a Nintendo Power subscription. Now, of course, this challenge wasn't anything crazy for me, but I sorta enjoyed going back and doing some of these stars as they were meant to be obtained, instead of using my arsenal of speedrun tricks I've learned over the years. It gave me a greater appreciation for some of the star segments in this game, or my abilities to normally skip them in a speedrun. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this run. If you did, consider subscribing, and be sure to check out some of my other challenge videos I've done before. And as always, thank you all so much for watching today, and I will see you in a bit.